Hey guys, Bobby here, and we are around halfway with this video being the fourth in my series all about how to edit wedding videos, where I'm taking you through a real wedding edit all the way from importing and organizing to cutting, color grading, and final delivery to your couple. If you haven't watched the previous videos, I would definitely recommend going back and catching up. And while I always love having you guys subscribe, if you want to guarantee that you'll see the latest tutorials I release, make sure to sign up for my email list, which is linked in the description. In today's video, we are talking about arguably the most important part of editing a wedding film, which is learning how to craft a story. We all have our own personal touch in how we approach a story, and it varies with every wedding, but I want to share my process for sequencing things together and how I approach the overall narrative. So let's jump in. So we're back in our editor, and I'm here on an older version of this highlight timeline. So I mentioned, in finding our selects that I found some ceremony stuff that I wanted to use, some vows, some kind of establishing of where we were, stuff like that. And then I also went into the reception. I pulled out different things from toast that I liked. Now, I might not use all of these things, but I certainly have the option to. So I like having maybe a little more than I will end up using pulled out, just so I can kind of work with what seems to flow together well. It gives me some options there. So in thinking about putting this together, there are two things that I like to think about or do, and they are sequencing and then marking. So sequencing for me is looking at kind of the short stories of the film as well as the overarching story of the film. And that's like, bridal prep has a bunch of different shots put together. It's not just one shot usually that's shown, it's a bunch of shots, and they're put together to tell a short story of bridal prep and as it relates to the overarching story of the wedding day or of the couple. And the other thing is marking, and marking is how I typically start any of these edits. So when I'm starting a highlight film, I always start with my music put in there, all of my selects pulled out as far as the audio of the story and whatnot. And what I go in and do first is I go in and I mark the music track. And what I mean by that is I'm listening through this. I'll turn it on quietly at least. I'm listening through this and I'm finding points where I think that these different parts of the story, these different audio clips will fit in well. And that can be to drive emotion as it syncs up with music. That can be to just kind of tell that story, etc. And then I do this in two waves. So the first thing I do is going through and lining up where I want these things to be. So let's say I want this one here. I haven't really listened to it. So I want that one there, and then these are her vows or a piece of them. Let's say I want that there, and then his vows, bring them there. And that's just by example. And of course I would lower the tracks here, but these aren't necessarily exact. This is how I start. So I'm starting by just kind of lining up things generally where I think they might fit well. And let's say this is all that I end up with. Now the next pass that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and actually mark this clip. And that's going to be with visually what I think. So I know right at this, right there, I'm going to hit M to add a mark. And if you double click on it, you can type in what you want. So I'm going to mark this as the drone shot. And we're going to listen through this. And I'm actually going to change this. So this is going to be drone shot into romantics. Because I'm going to have romantics of the couple going for a little while here. And just kind of some establishing, stuff like that. And then right around here, and again, these aren't exact, but they just give me a general roadmap for where I want to go. I'm going to go into bride prep. And that could be prep or details. I know I label them differently. I'm going to work my way through this whole thing. And one other thing that I do like to do is I like to keep an eye out. I'll listen to the whole song. And if there are certain spots that I think would work really well for revealing the first look and kind of that first reaction, or it could be the first dance or the bride coming down the aisle. Just some parts of the day that I think are generally pretty emotional for the couple. And that can be driven so well when it's paired up right with the music. So, for example, I might listen through this whole thing and decide, right here, let's say that's a little upswing in the music. Let's say I want to mark that, and this is going to be the first look reveal. So that's one thing that I typically put in there. Then all I'm going to do is work through this and mark different things. So this will be bride, and then around here I might go into some more establishing. And around there, I'll go into groom prep. And again, guys, these are not set in stone. Now, when I get into the actual edit and I see the footage I want to use, it might go a little further than this, and this might get pushed. There are only a few of these things that I would say are pretty well set. The intro is, pretty much I just want to start at that beat, or maybe it's this beat or something like that, And then wherever I decide, like that big emotional moment, like the first look or the dance, those are a little more set in stone, but I build around those. These things, if they last a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, that's okay. I can work around that. So here I am further in my edit now, and as you guys can see, I've got still those same, audio clips, one there. I've got the best man toast here. Some of the vows and whatnot, and these have moved around a little bit from where I originally set them, just based on how the edit was going, where I felt things maybe lined up better or needed to connect to other things. And you can see all my markers in here as well. Again, this is how I love to start. Let's see what we have here. So some romantic shots. This one I want to go into bride details, and I've got these all, I'm about here in the edit right now, so I'm about 3/4 of the way done, and I do have some stuff lined up down here, but you can see I've got this really planned out. Bride down the aisle, the first dance. This might be just, this is where I want the first look reveal. I believe that has stayed where I originally had it. Actually, I think I shifted it a little bit because I had it off, but it was the same area in the song. So again, some of that stuff stays the same. Some of it, of course, moves. You have to be flexible with the edit as you go. And then as far as the sequences, let's just look. Again, none of this, you can even see it's not even the right aspect ratio yet. It's not color graded. This is all raw footage, but I'll just show you a little thought here. So this is kind of my bridal prep short little thing here. So you got the dress, some more details, a little bit of makeup, some details to cut away, and into groom prep.
I first started writing these vows.
So again, these are, little short stories, little short pieces of the day that are their own little story in themselves, but also contribute to that overarching story. And that's what I mean by sequencing. And then, of course, marking, pretty self-explanatory. And that's pretty much it for this video. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this edit as far as cutting and sequencing goes. So I will check in on that in the next video with you guys when we get into kind of some finishing touches, color grade, stuff like that, the audio finishing touches, export and delivery. That's kind of what you have to look forward to. I'm not quite sure how they'll be broken up yet, but that's what we're doing, and I'll see you guys in the next video.